Welcome back and welcome to Chapter 2 of Walker Street Shipyards. This section is going to be dedicated to body mods, some things that need to be altered on the body of the kit to make some parts go together, and in the case of the saucer, to make it more adaptable and better for lighting. So we have these pieces, which are your outer ring saucer rings, and they mount right here around the saucer. Now, one of the things is within each of these pieces is a teeny hard to see number, and that number actually has a corresponding number here inside the saucer. They're very hard to see, but they are a great guide to show you which of these rings will go in these different places. And I've already got most of the rings around the rim and held in place with painter's tape. So if you look, you've got your windows here where your light comes out around your saucer rim, but once this piece is put into place, there is a wall that goes around the entire edge of the saucer with your mounting pins, and because of this wall, light can't get out. Light can't get to those windows. So if you want to light the saucer, you have got to remove portions of the wall, but you have to make sure that you don't grind away your mounting pins. So what I've done is I've come through, taken a look where the windows are, and made little markings where the sections of the saucer wall have to be cut away. What's odd is right here, you've got your windows for your rec deck, and they went ahead and did it for you. And why they didn't do this throughout the ring around the entire rim and save you the trouble, I just don't know. But as you can see, they cut away that section of the wall because that's your windows for the rec deck. One of the things, we modelers, we are very adaptable, and we like to find all kinds of different things and parts and tools to help us. I don't know where I got these foam blocks from. They were probably packing materials or something, but throughout the build I have found that they're really great for holding things up. They hold the secondary hull up, they can go on either side, and for the saucer, because you've got this big bulb in the middle, the saucer doesn't want to lay flat, but those foam blocks really help it lay flat. Anyway, I'm going to get started. I'm going to grind this section away. Hope it goes well, and I'll get right back and show everyone how it came out. Okay, so we have successfully dremeled away some of the excess wall that will allow light to reach the windows on our saucer rings. Here are some of the pieces that we dremeled out of place. Definitely you want to use protective eyewear because little shards of plastic went everywhere. But as we can see, the mounting pins are still in place, and so these pieces, once I line them up, still will hang onto the mounting pins, and you've got this open area right here that will allow light to reach these windows. The same for this piece here. If I get it set right. The walls away so that light can reach these windows here. You know, you really can't say that you have started a model kit until you first crack the cap off that bottle of glue and actually start gluing pieces of plastic together. That's really the beginning of your build. So as you can see, I have gone ahead and glued all of the saucer rim pieces in place. Before I did that, I took a look and really saw that beyond the edge of where I dremeled out, there were still some windows on those rim pieces that were behind walls. So I just went back and drilled these little holes, since it's just a single window here and a single window here. I didn't really want to dremel this out and have what would essentially just be a post for that support rod. So drilling a hole will get enough light. See, I did so here as well. here as well, here as well, because those are just single windows on the other side. Now, the thing about lighting up this kit is it is essentially just thin white plastic. So if you flood the interior with light, you're basically going to end up with an Enterprise shaped lamp. The whole thing is just going to glow. So what you have to do is go in and put in a light blocking material on all of your interior pieces. A lot of people will also spray paint the outside with black as well, light block the outside. I think if you do a good enough job on the inside, you don't have to do your outside. Since this kit is painted white, mostly, if you give it a coat of black on the outside, it's going to take that many more coats of white to cover up that black. So I have found that just getting black on the inside, and I use this. Okay, I've got a light source under the saucer, and let's switch out the lights and see the results. So as you can see, even with 2 coats of the Krylon black for light blocking, there's still a lot of stuff that's ghosting through these areas right here that did not get good enough coverage, and then the little spots here and here and here are the pinholes. So we need to go back. We've also got some pretty bad ghosting around the rim here. So if we were to leave it like that and, put our exterior paint on the outside and maybe do our masking for some of our fine detail lines and put decals on, registry markings, this is what we would end up with when we lit the kit. So we've got to go back and do a little bit more work on light blocking. So in addition to going back and blasting the interior of the saucer with more of your Krylon Color Max Black primer, we are going to be a little more surgical in specific areas such as along the pins and around the rim, and we're going to use this, which is Tulip black fabric paint. This stuff is really great at blocking light. When you put it in specific areas, light absolutely does not get through it. So using it very surgically, what we'll do is go apply it around the areas that we saw for problem areas, and we do not have to use a lot of precision since this isn't where anyone will see it, and it's going to be really, again, light blocking. Now the thing to remember about Tulip is that it is a paint, which means it is liquid and it flows. So you can't use it as any type of putty or any type of gap filler, because it will just go completely through gaps. Okay, I'm going to keep working on some of these specific areas, then we'll need to let it dry, and then I'll go back and hit this thing with a couple more coats of the Krylon, and we'll test it again. Okay, I've hit the interior of the saucer top with a few more coats of the Krylon black primer and gone in with the Tulip and tried to get to as many crevices as I could. So let's see if we've gotten everything. Well, there's still just a few more problem areas left. This area right here is one of the holes for the gluing pins. I think that probably that hole will be filled when the pin from the saucer bottom goes in. But here around this portion of the saucer rim, there's just a little bit of ghosting left. Probably what I'm going to end up doing is just going back and hitting this area on the outside with some Krylon black just right around here. These are the only problem areas that are left. So just a little bit of paint on the outside, a little bit of primer on the outside. I should be able to knock out all this ghosting, and then we can move on from light blocking the top of the saucer. So now we get to the biggest hurdle that you need to overcome just to make sure that this entire kit goes together, and that is making sure that the locking pins go into the holes correctly for the nacelle struts, and for them to do so, and for the whole the whole upper assembly of the secondary hull to even be able to close and go into place, you have to make some changes to a few things, and that is going to be these locking struts right here. Now they're heavy duty, and I understand their purpose. It's to make sure that your nacelles don't sag once the entire kit goes to pieces, but they weren't designed very well, and they actually prevent the pieces from going together well. So if you have your nacelle strut, and by the way, a little bit of a hint as to how you know which one goes where. These vents that you see here always face out. So this is going to be your port nacelle strut and your port secondary hull side. And when you take your strut and you put the pieces together with the little strut pins in the holes, I hope you'll be able to see this. Let me try to get a focus for you. It doesn't even fit together. There's this enormous amount of space that it just won't close up. And then when you take a look at your upper secondary hull back, ridge back, this piece, see, it has the same locking struts, which will go into the interior tab pieces. I know this is difficult to see. Forgive me. But once again, these two pieces just don't go together at all. So this thing would never even close up. You would never be able to glue it together. So that is the port side. Let's take a look and see if the problem persists on our starboard side. Once again, you've got your locking strut tabs. Once again, you've got the mounting holes, the mounting slots in your nacelle pylon. We put them in like this. This one fits better. It could perhaps be argued and cajoled into place, but that's really not that great of a fit. And so then if we take a look at trying to mount your starboard pylon into the strut tabs on your top piece, put them in there. Once again, it's not even close. These, I don't know if you can see this, but there's just, the two pieces just don't even line up at all. So what do you have to do to overcome this? Well, it's a pretty easy solution. Is you have to trim the top portions of these tabs right here. All four of these, and both of these on either side of your secondary hull wall. Just trim that back. You have to leave some of it. Actually, you have to leave as much as possible, but you do have to cut them back. I am not going to try to Dremel that. I really worry that I may shear away too much. I think that if you sheared away too much of the pins on the saucer rings, you might be able to MacGyver something to glue those pieces into place and make them secure. But these pins are the things that lock in your nacelles and keep them from sagging. So I want to be extra careful and not risk shearing them away by a high-powered Dremel, which is why I'm going to use this, which is a saw blade, X-Acto knife, hobby knife. So let me work on that and we'll see how it comes out. Okay, so you can see what I've done is come in and sawed away about half of this upright locking strut pin here on your sidewall and here on your back locking piece. I've sawed them away and removed them. I did a test fit and they fit great, but let me get it all together and taped up and I'll be happy to show you. So now I've got everything dry fitted together, and we can mostly declare a success because it all fit together and mostly fit together well. If we take a look at our starboard side, you can see this line here is very clean, no gap at all. This line here as well, very clean. And remember, before we trim those tabs away, these two parts wouldn't go together at all. One of them completely overlapped the other one. We do have a little bit of a gap here, but I think that when I finally glue this thing that I'll be able to clamp that shut and it won't be too bad, and certainly just a little smear of putty will take care of that. Now on our port side, we've got a nice clean line here and a nice clean line here. Unfortunately, we've got a bigger gap than I like, and I don't really know why. I don't know why it's on the port side and not on the starboard side. But one is better than two, right? We've got this big gap here that just does not want to squeeze close. So I'm going to keep working on that. I may be able to finesse and sand and trim the tabs and try to figure out where there may be some type of bulk or something. And of course it's in the back too. Worst comes to worst, a little bit of putty will come in and eradicate that gap. But again, remember, these pieces would not even go together at all before we trim those tabs. So that is really a necessary thing to do. So once you've taken care of trimming those locking tabs for your nacelle pylons and this whole locking feature here, I recommend going through for your secondary hull and doing an entire dry build and getting it all together. You may want to even go to the trouble of doing a dry build on your shuttle bay assembly and getting your shuttle bay assembly in there to make sure you see how all that fits. One of the most helpful pieces of advice that I came across when building this kit the first time, I was about a third of the way through the build, and on the Facebook 1350 Enterprise group, somebody posted something that is a truism for this kit, and I have never forgotten it. But they posted, "This kit fights you at every step of the build." And that is sort of the prime directive for the 1350 Enterprise kit. It is surprising the different areas where you will run into problems that you didn't expect them. It is surprising the number of areas where even though you've gone through and checked it out and it worked once, it didn't work again. You know, I did this. I did a dry build my first time and made sure that everything went together really great. But then when I went to glue this top piece on, right here there was this gap that all of a sudden popped up, this 1/8 of an inch gap in ridge above your fantail rear assembly. You will find out that your dorsal pins don't fit in those holes very well at all. So you want to make sure that you anticipate all of those problems and overcome all of those problems before you get to the point that you've got a lot of paint, a lot of decals, and certainly you start putting glue on things. Now, having said that, I recommend a dry build. I don't recommend you try to push together the two saucer halves. Those pins are very, very tight. And I put the two saucer halves together and clamped it shut and thought, oh wow, it really looks cool. And then, like to never got those two halves apart. I was really afraid that I was going to end up cracking a piece. And as a matter of fact, I did shear off one of the locking pins just in trying to get those two pieces apart. So I don't recommend a dry build for the saucer because those pins go in there so tightly. So this kit, a lot of challenges. Like I said, this kit fights you at every step of the build.